Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liz Dixon. I'm an Education and Training Specialist with the Institute of Child Nutrition, and I would like to welcome y'all to the August School Nutrition STAR webinar series on strategies that promote a culture of food safety. During today's webinar, all attendees are muted. There will be time for questions following each speaker's presentation. If you have questions, please type into the question box on your screen. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but due to our time constraints, every question may not get answered during the webinar. Individuals who have registered for the webinar will receive an email 24 hours after the conclusion of the webinar. This email contains the webinar recording link and a link to the evaluation survey. Please complete the evaluation survey. ICN will send out certificates within 48 hours. To assist in meeting the unique training, technical assistance, and professional development needs of school nutrition professionals, ICN has launched the School Nutrition STAR Strategies, Trainings, Action Plans, and Resources Initiative to assist school nutrition professionals in developing goals and best practices to improve program administration and operations. The School Nutrition STAR program offers a multitude of elements, including face-to-face workshops, virtual-led trainings, webinars, and spotlight success stories. The Institute of Child Nutrition collaborates with USDA to host monthly STAR webinars. The STAR webinars offer training, real-life strategies of program implementation, and best practices to incorporate into action plans and/or goals. Training topics, free resources, and educational materials are also highlighted to assist school nutrition professionals with navigating through the enhanced responsibilities of school nutrition operations. The Institute has created a website for all materials and resources specifically related to the webinars. You can find the information at https://vicn.org/star. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Strategies that Promote a Culture of Food Safety. The topic covered in today's webinar will fall under the key area operations and meet the USDA Professional Standards Code 2640, promote a culture of food safety behaviors in a school community, which includes training on food allergens. We have two panelists today. The first one is myself. As I mentioned, I'm an Education and Training Specialist at the Institute of Child Nutrition with over 14 years of experience related to nutrition, food, and health. I have a master's in food nutrition and culinary sciences from Clemson University and a bachelor's in nutrition and food science from Auburn University. I'm certified in design learning and writing for instructional designing and training from ATD, and I also have several fitness certifications. We also have presenting today, Kristin Parvin. Kristin is the School Nutrition Site Supervisor for the Independent School District in Independence, Missouri. Kristin attended the Johnson County Community College Culinary Arts Program. After 5 years of successfully managing a deli in Kansas City, and then serving as the Food Service Director for the Metropolitan Community College at Longview, Kristin had the opportunity to become the Site Supervisor for the Independent School District. She supervises 30 nutrition centers, which include full-service catering and a cafe. She is passionate about sharing knowledge, encouragement, and the skills it takes to have a successful school kitchen and staff. So we're very excited about this webinar today. At the end, attendees will be able to identify strategies to promote a culture of food safety behaviors in a school community. I'm taking a second to switch presentation. So I'm very excited to be presenting on how to apply HACCP-based food safety to your school nutrition program. We will discuss the basics of hazard analysis, critical control point, HACCP, and with that, we will learn about the importance of a food safety plan for a school, describe the components of a HACCP plan, and learn some strategies for applying them. So just some background. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, each year 1 in 6 Americans get sick, roughly 48 million people, 128,000 are hospitalized, and 3,000 die from foodborne illnesses. Half of the reported cases of foodborne illnesses occur in children under 15 years of age. These statistics emphasize the importance of food safety in our job as school nutrition professionals. Food safety is the key responsibility of every school nutrition employee, manager, and director, considering that those who follow a school food safety plan help reduce the risk of a foodborne illness outbreak, but also help reduce the risk of other possible emergencies such as an allergic reaction. On average, over 30 million children are served school meals every day. This means our school nutrition operations provide meals with the potential of affecting large numbers of children. Young children, especially those in elementary school, are at risk for foodborne illness for many reasons. First, they're still developing their immune systems, which lowers their ability to fight infection. Their lower body weight reduces the dose of pathogen needed to sicken them. Also, children have limited control over their diet and the related food safety risks that come with preparing that food. And finally, children have reduced stomach acid production, which decreases their capacity to kill harmful bacteria. Even more important among the children we serve are those who have possible food-related disabilities. Their young age and disabilities leave them particularly vulnerable to foodborne illness and potential food hazards. These food-related disabilities could include food allergies and intolerances, celiac disease, diabetes, PKU, and the need for modified textured foods. A food safety plan that describes how to provide safe meals for these children is especially needed. So what do we want to create in schools is a culture of food safety. Schools are required to have a food safety program based on HACCP principles if they participate in a USDA FNS child nutrition program. However, to keep children safe, schools need to emphasize the importance of food safety. A culture of food safety weaves food safety into all aspects of a school nutrition program. By creating a culture of food safety, it involves more than just following policies and procedures. It's the conversations that take place in the cafeteria, in the boardrooms, the hallways, the kitchen, the stockroom, and the break room. It's the teachable moments and then learning new things. And it's also just as much about the conversations that don't take place. It's the job well done, the need to improve, and the disciplinary actions that may not have happened. A well-written and carefully implemented HACCP-based food safety plan can help organize and support a culture of food safety. An organization with a strong food safety culture demonstrates not only to its employees but also to its customers that making safe food is an important commitment. So we want to take a second. We want to hear from you. So I'd like to hear, how often are you trained on your school's HACCP-based food safety plan? We should have a polling question coming up in a moment. I'm going to give you some time to answer. Just a couple more seconds to get those answers in. Hopefully we'll see the results from that poll in a moment. All right. I see we have some results here. It looks like over 60% of our attendees receive annual training on their HACCP-based. Got 8% biannually, 6% at quarterly, 9% monthly, 3% weekly, and then 14% others. So very interesting results. but at least it looks like everyone's getting training. So a food safety plan based on HACCP principles, the point of it is to create forward-thinking procedures. This is because the heart of HACCP is prevention. The point is to find the hazards in your school nutrition program and prevent them from ever happening. To create a HACCP plan, a school nutrition program needs a written document for each site that includes specific methods to develop, document, and implement standard operating procedures, or SOPs, identify and document all menu items, identify and document control measures and critical limits, establish monitoring procedures, establish corrective actions, keep records, and make sure to review and revise the food safety policy. All of these elements are needed to develop a complete HACCP-based food safety plan. We're going to walk through all these individual pieces and give some information and strategies for creating and following your school's food safety plan. So we're going to begin with the SOPs. So you need to develop, document, and implement standard operating procedures. SOPs are step-by-step instructions on how to do food safety in your school nutrition program. They are written practices and procedures for producing safe food that can help everyone understand not only what is expected, but also how to do a task. They are written for each step of the food service process: purchasing, receiving, storing, preparing, cooking, serving and holding, cooling, reheating, and transporting. SOPs provide the foundation of the food safety program. They cover everyday routine food service tasks such as personal hygiene, dishwashing, and cooking procedures. Each SOP includes the following information. They're going to have the purpose of the SOP. This is why you actually need to follow this standard operating procedure, what the point is of it. You're going to have instructions which describe how to accomplish that task. You also should include monitoring procedures, which is going to tell you how to make sure the purpose of the SOP is being accomplished, corrective actions if something is going wrong, suggested record-keeping documents such as logs, and verification procedures to make sure that the standard operating procedure is actually working. So logs, as I mentioned, are a form of recording monitoring activities such as the temperature of food when it's received, or even the concentration of a sanitizer solution. This documentation provides proof that food safety procedures are being practiced. Each school should tailor SOPs and logs to their individual school site. So you can't just go on the internet and print one and put it into a binder. You need to make sure that that SOP and that log fits the procedures that are going on in your school. Also, all staff should be trained on the SOPs and logs, and they need to follow them to help reduce the risk of a foodborne illness outbreak. So next, we're going to identify and document all menu items. The way we do this is that we use the process approach. So to help implement a HACCP plan, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, developed the process approach. USDA adopted this modified form of HACCP when they developed the guidance for school food authorities developing a school food safety program based on the process approach to HACCP principles, which is a guidance you can find on the USDA website. Using this process approach, menu items are grouped into 3 broad categories based on how many times that food item moves to the temperature danger zone, which is 41 degrees Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. The 3 categories are no-cook process, same-day service process, and complex food preparation process. Although the menu items within each category may be varied, the measures used to prevent and control hazards within that category are all going to be the same. So we're going to break down those process approach categories a little bit more. So for menu items in the no-cook process, they do not go through the temperature danger zone at all. These are items such as deli sandwiches and salads that are prepared and served cold. For same-day service process, menu items go through the temperature danger zone 1 time as they are cooked and then served on that same day. These items may include hamburgers, pizza, chicken nuggets, or something like scrambled eggs. Menu items in the complex food production process go through the temperature danger zone 2 or more times. These menu items may be cooked and cooled, but then also may be reheated and held hot. Examples of these items are going to vary based on different schools, but may include items such as turkey roast, taco meat, chili, and leftovers. It's important to note that the same menu items may be grouped into different processes depending on how that item is prepared and the available equipment in the school. For example, chili could be a complex menu item at one school because they prepare it the day before, chill it, and then reheat it the next day, or it could be a same-day service for another school that just makes it and serves it on the same day. So after we've sorted our menu items, we're going to identify and document control measures and critical limits. So as food moves through the entire flow of food from receiving to service, each step has points that need to be controlled to prevent hazards. This is called the critical control point. A critical control point is a key point to prevent, eliminate, or reduce that food safety hazard. An example would be checking the final internal cooking temperature of a roast beef. A critical limit, on the other hand, is a minimum or maximum limit that must be met to prevent or eliminate that hazard. So, for example, you would cook ground beef to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. So once you sort those menu items into process approach categories, you're then able to determine the critical control points that are needed for them. So instead of having to go through each menu item and determine the critical control points and critical limits for each food, the critical control points and critical limits are developed for each process category, which we're about to discuss. So our first control measure, we're going to look at the no-cook process. The critical control point for no-cook menu items is cold holding. Remember, these foods do not go through the temperature danger zone. So the critical limit for a food item such as fruit salad is going to be holding that food at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, and this will help prevent the growth of pathogens. For same-day service, these menu items have 2 critical control points. Because they're going to go through the temperature danger zone 1 time as they get cooked, we're going to have to cook that food to its proper internal temperature, and then our second item is going to be hot holding. So for example, with our baked chicken, we would need to cook that food up to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds, and then make sure we hot hold it at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or higher to make sure it stays out of the temperature danger zone. For complex menu items, there can be a possibility of 4 critical control points: cooking, cooling, reheating, and hot holding. And it will depend on the food and the preparation method for how many of the critical control points you need. So each step, although, has a critical limit to keep food safe. So first, you have to cook food to its proper internal temperature. For our beef and bean tamale pie, that means 165 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds. From there, you need to cool food down. You need to get it to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours, and then 41 degrees Fahrenheit within an additional 4 hours. If you're going to reheat the food must be reheated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours of starting the reheating process. From there, make sure you hot hold the food to 135 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. So after we've sorted everything and determined the critical limits and critical control points, we need to establish monitoring procedures. Monitoring helps you follow through on those critical control points and SOPs. It involves taking temperatures and making observations to see that the food safety plan is being followed. We have an example here. The critical control point, as we mentioned earlier, for a no-cook menu item is going to be cold holding. So a monitoring procedure you could set up could go like this. It's how are you going to monitor? We're going to check that the refrigerator temperature is 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. When and how often will you monitor? We're going to do it 2 times daily at the beginning of the workday before meal prep and after serving the meal and putting leftovers away. And then who will be responsible for monitoring? We're going to say the cafeteria manager. Now, a key strategy for monitoring procedures is to make time for monitoring. Monitoring hazards reduces the chance of them actually happening, which makes it worth the time to do it. So with our monitoring procedures, the next part we need to do is establish corrective procedures or corrective actions. When a critical control point is not met, a corrective action must be carried out immediately. This preventative approach is, once again, the heart of HACCP. Employees need to know what these corrective actions are. For example, say we see a cooler that has a temperature of 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Coolers need to be at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and the cooler temperature log says the last temperature was taken the day before at the end of the day. A possible corrective action example is written here. So you could check the temperature of a carton of milk, preferably near the door where the cooler will be the warmest, and see if it registers 42 degrees Fahrenheit or above. If it does, do not serve the milk. From there, call the manager for replacement milk and put in a request to repair the equipment. If you want to make sure, especially if the milk is too high, mark all that milk in that cooler is bad, do not use it, or discard it as instructed. A key strategy for corrective actions is to make sure that all corrective actions are readily available. Employees need to know the right action to take for a problem, and they do not really have time to go searching for it. Make corrective actions easy to find and easy to follow. So we've done these beautiful monitoring procedures and these beautiful corrective actions. We need to make sure we keep records of what we've done. Keeping and reviewing records provides a method for checking and verifying that the food safety plan is working. As we mentioned earlier, the HACCP plan will contain SOPs and logs that help food safety activity in our school nutrition program. The logs are used throughout the food service process to document food safety procedures. Logs document more than just temperatures, though. They can cover other food safety procedures, such as thermometer calibration, sanitizer concentration, and staff training. Most states are going to require that you keep those logs a minimum of 1 year, but your local health department or state agency may require longer. Make sure you check with them to know how long you need to keep documentation. A key strategy for documentation is to keep it as simple as possible. For example, you can have a place on your receiving records, have a place to record receiving temperatures on your food delivery invoices. Make a section on your food production log to record final cooking temperatures. You really want to make sure you document, because in the event that your school nutrition program is implemented in a foodborne illness outbreak, records of monitoring and corrective actions can provide proof that reasonable care was taken in your operation. And finally, you want to make sure you review and revise your plan. The HACCP plan is a living document that changes as the needs in your school nutrition program change. Once you create a HACCP-based food safety plan, it is important to train your staff on that plan. From there, make sure that the plan is being followed and validate that it's working. If it's not working or if something changes, you need to update the plan and make sure you train your staff on those changes. And when we say that this HACCP plan is a living document, that means it can't be sitting on a shelf gathering dust. It needs to be readily available and readily used. You should review and revise your food safety plan at least annually, or when changes happen in your facility. Now, these changes may include new equipment or new menu items, new laws or regulations, or if you're just correcting a procedure that doesn't work anymore. Some key strategies for your food safety plan include encouraging staff to voice a concern if a procedure is not working or needs to be updated. This helps not only with validation, but may also provide an opportunity for some training. Also, reviewing logs can show what processes might not be working. So developing a culture of food safety begins with new hire orientation and never goes away. Staff need to know from the beginning that food safety is important to school nutrition operations. The procedures and records needed to succeed in food safety should be provided and readily available. It's vital that current staff be carefully trained on all SOPs, corrective actions, logs, and other record-keeping procedures. Also equally important is that all staff use and follow the food safety plan. Although it may be familiar training, everyone needs a refresher on food safety policies and procedures every once in a while. Make sure you keep a copy of all documents of the site plan where employees can refer to it. This way, if they have questions, they can look it up. Everyone has the opportunity to be a food safety advocate in his or her school. So I'm going to take a moment. Thank you for listening to my presentation. We're going to look and see if there's any questions. Okay. So for the no-cook process for HACCP, can you clarify if this includes shelf-stable items such as packets of ketchup and whole food, whole apples, bananas? Thanks. So shelf-stable items are usually, if they're still in their shelf-stable state, they have been commercially made to stay within temperatures of actually 50. They can actually be stored generally at 50 to 70 degrees. So those items, until they are opened, would not be part of the no-cook process, because when you purchase them and they're still in their original packaging, they are shelf-stable. The second they open, they become no-cook. So you would have to, if they're open, then you would have to put them at 41 degrees or below. If they're not open, then they're just considered, they're not a time and temperature control for safety food item. Let me see what other questions we have. If the center use of a catering food service, what is the safe temperature to accept it or serve it? You want to make sure that any food that you accept or serve is at the appropriate temperature for that particular food item. So if you are getting food from a catering food, and I hope I'm interpreting this question correctly, you would want to make sure you're able to see their documentation that whatever food item was properly cooked to its internal temperature, and that you're receiving it at 135 degrees or above if it has been cooked, or 41 degrees or below if it has not been. All right. Just checking to see if there's any more questions. It says, is there any guidance for time in lieu of temperature as a control of food safety? For that, I would refer you to, I'm going to mention it later in our presentation, but ICN has a standard operating, or sample standard operating procedure that I can send this particular person. But I'm going to talk more about that later. Oh, wow. All right, I'm going to do, I think, one more question, and then we'll come back to them later. If receiving food from a vendor and it comes in below temperature, how should the school proceed? Is it okay to accept if it has not been in the temperature danger zone for longer than 4 hours? For this one, I would definitely want to make sure that you would see documentation. If it's coming in below temp, you would want to see not only that it actually reached the appropriate temperature, but that when it reached the appropriate temperature. So I would definitely look at temperature documentation before I accepted that. And then one quick one I see left, what temp should food be cooked to when it is reheated? You want to make sure that when you reheat food, you cook it to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds. And you want to make sure you get that food to 150 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours of when you start the reheating process. And I believe for time, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pass it over to Kristin.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Liz, for that presentation. I'm Kristin Parvin. I'm a Site Supervisor for Independent School District in Independence, Missouri. I've been in the food industry for about 27 years, and currently this is my 11th year with the Independent School District. And so throughout my years of experience, it was always a must that I train and support staff members, and hopefully this presentation will give you my view on how we do training in our school. So do you ever prepping fruits and vegetables differently? Some use a chef knife while others use a paring knife, use a grater from home, and some peel by hand. How do you create a food safety culture and make staff into produce experts? How do I get staff members to make the most of their time, and what tools and equipment would make it easier for the team? The ISD Nutrition Services implemented this training in 2014, and it has grown into what it is today. So we selected a nutrition center that we wanted to do the training. We train the trainer, the expectations of the training, the tools for success, the acknowledgement of those participating, and set up trainers for success. We then select one person to cover the absence of the trainee, the best practice to have the same person be the floater for each school that you're going to pull out one of those food service preps. Each day we have a different area of focus. Day one, we focus on receiving and storing. Where should the produce be stored? What to do, what not to do. On day two, we focus on preparation, knife handling skills, the use of cutting boards. And day three, we talk about service, presentation, and what the first and the last customer will see. And then on day four, the trainee returns to their home school and they implement the 3-day training at their site. Prior to leaving the class, the trainee will leave with a cutting board, a chef knife, a tomato corer, paring knife, salad spinner, and a cut-resistant glove. The goal was that everyone would have the same tools needed to do the job. And then as the supervisor, I follow up to watch the implementation and coach them if they need it. So on day one, our goals are receiving and storage. And now on the right hand of the screen, you can see that this is our HACCP SOP that we have created for our district. The staff member is going to be able to receive produce, check for size and grade, the temperature, is it ripe and ready, is it proper storage, FIFO, and the best by date. If you notice on our SOP, we have a nutrition service site inspection. In that inspection, you see a 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, and I will explain what that does mean here in just a moment. We came up with a tool that we use in order to check our HACCPs and our SOPs, and this is a copy of our Nutrition Center Monthly Manager Site Inspection. It is a 2-page inspection, a carbon copy, so the manager of the location can keep a copy for his or her staff and her, and then one is sent in to me to monitor where the areas of concern are. You can see in the top part that there are critical areas. If they see something that needs to be corrected based on the SOP, it is obviously critical and is expected to be checked within 48 hours. I've kind of enlarged some of it so you can see that number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, refrigeration and freezer storage, labeling, FIFO, thermometers, gaskets, and our logs and receiving. So the food prep then is trained on what is going to be really checked on the monthly site inspection on their end. During the training, we do pull up USDA produce safety training videos. They watch the what went wrong video, they watch the what went right video. And I would really encourage that you reach out to those videos and watch, because they are definitely interesting to watch. This is just a screenshot of actually what the videos look like when you pull them up. So then after they watch the videos, the trainee fills out what went wrong in the activity and what went right. So I'm going to launch out my first polling question that I have. And when storing produce, all items should be located in the front of the walk-in. Okay, and so I'm waiting to see. Okay, we've got a few answers coming in, and some people have marked true and some people have said false. So when storing produce, all items should be located in the front of the walk-in. That answer is actually, sorry, now I've got the polling questions. 63% said false and 37% said true. And so the answer to that is items, when storing produce, all items should be stored in the appropriate areas. The answer is false. So melons, tomatoes, and kiwi are examples of fruit that need to be stored at room temperature to continue the ripening process. If you're receiving produce that's not ripe and ready to use, then it would go in the dry storage. The items that you would put in the cooler are items that you have prepared, and there are specific areas to go into the cooler. And I found this picture of a walk-in that this is what we share to our staff. I find all my resources on websites, USDA website, School Nutrition Association, Kansas State University, and of course the Institute of Child Nutrition has great tools and videos to go to educate your staff. And so this is one of the pictures of the walk-in from the Institute of Child Nutrition that can kind of show you that apples, nectarines, peaches, lettuce, and fresh cut produce products, produce needs to be held in the back of the cooler, where towards the front are peppers, summer squash, cucumbers, green beans, so on and so forth. So after getting through day one, day two goals are washing fruits and vegetables, safe knife handling skills, use of proper equipment, and mise en place. So washing fruits and vegetables, it's always an interesting conversation with staff members of, do you shower your fruits and vegetables or do they take a bath? So what standards do you follow? Do you shower your fruits and vegetables? Do you place them in a colander? Do you run water over them so the dirt and toxins go to the bottom of the drain? Or do you take a bath with fruits and vegetables and place it in a sanitized sink filled with water where the dirt and toxins are floating in the sink at the when the dirt and toxins are floating or sinking to the bottom of the sink? So the standard we follow is items should be showered with water so the dirt and toxins goes down the drain versus contaminating the water that they're sitting in. Here's another HACCP that we have for washing fruits and vegetables. Again, it's tying to that monthly site inspection sheet, making sure that people are following our HACCP, making sure that they're doing what they say they are doing. In day two, we talk about knife safety tips. We discuss on how we protect ourselves and our team members when using a knife. We hand out the 10 safe handling hints for knives. We teach them how to hold a blade and how to use a blade. We talk about proper sanitation and storage. And so our first line of defense that we have found is that a cut-resistant glove worn during preparation has really helped our district with the decrease in work comp claims for lacerations. We also wanted to protect our staff, and so we require that all team members wear a cut-resistant glove when using a paring knife, when cutting, when when cleaning a meat slicer, anything that they are using a sharp object with, they are required to use the cut-resistant glove. And so here are the 10 topics of knife safety that we hand out and give to our staff while they're doing the training. And I really want our staff to focus on number 6 on that training, and it talks about knife handling when you're sanitizing it. So over my years of service, I've worked for different locations and worked for under different chefs that putting a knife in a sink with soapy water is danger. And so we teach people that the staff member using the knife is the one that is cleaning the knife. And we have them hand wash all their knives while they're wearing their cut-resistant glove, and they store in a designated location. The one thing we focus on is we do not want our staff to leave it on the counter for somebody else to clean up. If another staff member puts the blade in the sink filled with soapy water, we take the chance of somebody getting hurt. Or if a staff member runs it through the dish machine, we've found over time that when you place your blades in the dish machine, the rocking back and forth on the dish rack then does dull the blade, and you take the chance of somebody getting hurt when they reach into that dish machine rack to put away the dishes. So number 6, we focus on just safety of how to clean that blade. Cutting boards. So we secure a damp towel underneath our cutting boards. This keeps the cutting board from sliding around. We talk about how to clean it. We hand wash it. We sanitize it. Or we place it in the dish machine also. So the tools that our nutrition center uses for tomatoes is we give the tomatoes a shower. Once we give those tomatoes a shower, we use a tomato core where they core out the tops. They then use a slicer and slice the tomatoes. And then we have taught that if you turn the tomato the other way, then you can run the blade against it and it will dice it. When dicing it, it makes sure that each piece is unified and the same shape, same amount. We make this we have an SOP that we require that they have to use the tomato slicer just so we have the same amount. We teach them how to cut romaine. With my experience and 30 different sites, I noticed that every school did something different on how they chop their romaine. So in this training, we teach everybody the same way. You peel off the outside layers, you cut the tips off, you keep it intact, and you make 2 slices down the middle and then turn it and start chopping it. So pieces are about 1 inch apart. Washing the greens after you've cut them, then they are put in a colander and run cool water over it. Once you have taken your gloved hands, making sure that the water is going all over, then we put them in the salad spinner and spin off any excess water that is on that lettuce. When we implemented this program and we bought these salad spinners, I was amazed with how the lettuce would last a lot longer once we did spin off all the excess water. And so I think you will find that this is a tool that does really freshen up your greens and make them look bright and green when they're on your serving. And then once you're done prepping that, you want to store in an airtight container, dated and labeled. We shred our carrots. The RoboCoop is actually the piece of equipment that we've purchased for our district. There are many other different food processors that you can look at, but again, it gives it a unified shred. We also use it for onions, cucumbers, celery, and peppers. And we really like this instrument, and most of our staff likes this piece of equipment also. And so then our food preps are required to prep enough fruits and vegetables for 2 days. The team member shreds carrots, chops and wash romaine, wash, core, slice, dice tomatoes. They drain the beans, they rinse the beans, they wash the spinach, and then they hold everything in an airtight container separately. This is a picture that we have. This is our salad bar set up on our tomatoes, shredded carrots, and our legumes. We have it that kids aren't reaching over one another. So on each side of our salad bar, we do have a double-sided salad bar that they go down, that it just kind of makes it a little bit easier for kids not to have to reach over to the other side. And of course, always talking about mise en place and making sure that we're putting everything in place. And we teach them that getting everything out and making one trip and getting all those items together will save you probably an hour to an hour and a half of your time if you can have everything together. The trainer to the trainee. This is a handout that you can find online. It's discussions on salad bar expectations, and this document that we hand out to our staff is just something that they can have in their hand. They can read it after the training, before the training, kind of really prepare themselves. But some of the things that it talks about is things that you just don't necessarily think about when dealing with salad bars. And so this has been a really good tool for us to make sure that all of our staff is on the same page. And our day 3 goals is about service and presentation. So what does your salad bar look like? Is it clean and fresh? Do your items look appealing for your kiddos to come through and eat, or even for your teachers to come through and eat? So we always focus on making sure that the last customer has the same choices as the first customer. And what we found out over time is that the truth is that it does happen, and that our salad bars are running out by the end of the day. So I've gone out to some schools here just lately and wanted to just make sure that our training was still intact. And so the picture on the left is actually a high school that we have, and that's what the line looked like after the first line. And then the picture on the right then is an elementary picture, which you can definitely tell it's at the end of the day. So just kind of some things to look at when you're teaching this to your trainees of what your expectations are. So the trainees will leave our training with knowledge, techniques, and tools that they can use for their job. They've learned how to receive properly, store the produce, how to wash produce, how to prep produce, chopping romaine, using a shredder, really focusing in on how to use a knife. You would be surprised with how many of your team members don't even know how to hold a chef knife, and how they're scared to use a chef knife. So they always use a paring knife. So getting them the tools that they need to do their job. And then once the trainee goes to their home location, they've received a cutting board, a chef knife, a cut glove, just those tools that they need to do their job. And it makes them feel good that we've given them something. Now, obviously, these have to stay within the district if they decide to move to a different school, but they do take pride in having their own knife, and they keep it protected, and they sometimes hide it in their drawers so other people can't use it. So it's specifically for only this position. So in our years of doing this training, staff are all on the same page, and we all have a sense of team. And we award the trainee with a certificate of excellence that they've completed the training and the date that they completed the training. We also have managers meetings that we also recognize the team members that have done the trainings and the managers meetings, so then that managers can see that, that they have been trained. So I want to thank you for watching this video with me, or presentation. This is me on the right-hand side. I am giving one of our food preps a hug and congratulating her on doing the training. And then we did a catered special event for one of our districts, and so this is one of our high schools catering. So at this time, if anybody has any questions, I'll be going and looking for questions. So one of the questions is it also true that, for example, grape tomatoes that are delivered refrigerated by our distributor, they should be stored in the cooler and not dry storage? Typically, your grape tomatoes are ready to eat, and so those would be held in the storeroom. So a question of cut-resistant glove with non-cooked produce, sanitized questions. So the cut-resistant glove is to protect the employee for any lacerations. We can run those cut-resistant gloves through the dish machine, and then at the end of the day, they do put them in the washing machines that we have at our sites. So if you want to go, the question is, can we receive a printout of the do's and the don'ts of the food safety using knives? You can go to the USDA website, and there is a list of the do's and the don'ts of food safety. So our romaine that we get, the question is, if your romaine lettuce, is it shredded or chunked? Does it come in a big bag? So our romaine lettuce that we get is actually, we found that it's cheaper to buy the whole heads, and so we chop it from that. And so I will do a couple more questions. So how are your schools selected to participate in the training program, or are all schools participating in the program? So our district, we have 30 schools. And when we first implemented the program, we implemented it at elementaries. And so we have 17 elementaries. And so each week I would pull one food prep from each location to work side by side with me for 4 days. And then we went to the next school and the next school. And we found that taking that person out of their school and bringing to a training location was much better for us rather than to going into their school. We kind of took them out of their comfort zone, taught them some things, and then they had to go back to their site and implement it. And so then now we started this back in 2014. And so now who goes through the training now is any new food prep that is hired within the year, then go to the training. And this year we have 6 people that will be going through the training program. And then I'll answer one more question. So do I rinse and spin? Yes, we have our staff chop up the romaine, they put it in the colander and rinse, and then you put it into the salad spinner and spin off all the excess water off of that. So thank you for watching the food prep culinary training. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Good luck to you in all your training, and I'm going to turn it back over to Liz.
All right. Oh, pardon. Starting at the beginning instead of toward the end. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We just wanted to point out a couple resources that ICN has available that may help you with some of the key strategies we discussed today. The first is our sample HACCP standard operating procedures. As I mentioned, for the person that was looking for time in lieu of temperature, we have a sample standard operating procedure for that. You can go to www.theicn.org/food-safety. These are made all available in Word, and you can get food safety logs, food safety standard operating procedures, and other food safety SOP resources such as training logs. Also, I've noticed in some of the questions, the ICN.org/food-safety, we also have a section for produce safety. I did not make a slide for it, but if you go down to our produce safety section, it will have some of the resources that Kristin mentioned. Also, this just in, to provide further support and education on HACCP for your school, ICN just launched our new Introduction to HACCP for School Nutrition Programs online course. This is a 1-hour free course. It's self-paced, meaning you can start the course, leave, and come back where you last left off. My apologies. One moment, technical difficulties. But yes, if you go to theicn.org/food safety, you can get access to our food safety resources. For theicn.org /eLearning, you'll have access to our eLearning portal. It will show our 1-hour course. It's self-paced, meaning you can start and leave and come back whenever you need to, and you get a certificate at the end with CEUs. Also, we have our brand new child nutrition sharing site. Pardon one second. Let me see if I can fix the screen not sharing. I'm going to make sure you can see this. Okay. My apologies for technical difficulties. So just real quick so you can see, we have theicn.org/food safety. This is where you can find all our food safety resources, including our HACCP-based standard operating procedure samples and produce safety. We have our brand new Introduction to HACCP for School Nutrition Programs online course. This can be found at theicn.org/eLearning. And then finally, we have our new child nutrition sharing site. Team Nutrition's Healthy Meals Resource System, HMRS, has moved to the Institute of Child Nutrition and is now part of ICN's new child nutrition sharing site. And this is an online resource center providing child nutrition programs with a means for sharing valuable resources related to program operations. This move will give child nutrition professionals a one-stop shop to access all high-quality resources and training materials in the child nutrition community that support current federal regulations, policies, and guidance. This DNSS will be rolled out in phases. Right now, phase 1 is available, and it will give child nutrition professionals access to the resources and trainings that were originally housed on the now discontinued Healthy Meals Resource Center. Before we conclude today's webinar, we would like to bring your attention also to some new ICN face-to-face training resources that are now available free of charge. You can always visit our website, theicn.org, to learn more about these and other trainings. Just a final reminder of today's webinar. This has been recorded and can be viewed on the ICN website at theicn.org/star. Please complete the evaluation survey for this webinar. After the end of this webinar, you're going to see a pop-up with a survey. You will be asked if you would like to be taken to our survey. Please click yes and take a moment to go ahead and complete that survey for our webinar. Thank you again so much, Kristin, for speaking and sharing your wealth of information with us. This concludes today's webinar. Have a great day.